If you're looking for an edge in Reason 3, here are 20 tips and tricks that could help you out. Number 1. Get Freddy's Shackles, which is a collectible from the Fog Island if you own the DLC. This one is worth getting as soon as you finish the introductory part of the game for that juicy 10% glory bonus. This affects the glory not only that you get from killing monsters, but also completing quests, so it's sure to stack up during your playthrough, giving you an easier time to build your character the way you want. I recommend you pick up a parrot flight scroll from the Inquisition camp and simply fly over to the destination. You can find some parrot flight scrolls easily on the other islands as well, typically in camps if you need more. It's also possible to fight the monsters on the way there if you're feeling adventurous. Number 2. Learn prospecting. This is a mining skill which you can learn from a gnu called Faris inside a mine on the island of Tyrannus for 500 gold. This will allow you to get 8 pieces of crystals, jade, iron ore or gold ore when mining instead of the usual 5. All of these materials are used for crafting, with crystals and jade also being used to learn spells for guardians and voodoo pirates respectively. This will not only allow you to learn spells earlier, but also help you make more gold in the long run. And since we're on this subject, save up on magic crystals for mages, jade for voodoo pirates, and ancient knowledge for demon hunters because they're the currency used to buy spells and they're also used in crafting. Learn the skinning skills. There are 5 of them, which will set you back 4,000 gold, but you'll definitely get a return on investment in the long run. You can learn them from the hunter Walker on the island of Tyrannus. And while 4,000 gold is a sizable amount, you can make this much by doing easy quests inside camps and looting around all the islands. The beauty of Reason 3 is that you can travel quickly from one island to the other to look for good opportunities. The materials you get from skinning are not only used in crafting, but you can also sell them for quick gold. And speaking of quick gold, hold on to silverware, raw fish and iron ore. There are some people on the island of Kila and Calador who pay a premium price for these items, which will certainly help your early game need for gold. Even though iron ore is used for crafting, if you learn prospecting before mining anything, you should have a large surplus. Number 6. Don't try to clear one island at a time because it's going to be difficult. Enemies don't scale with your level, so it's likely to encounter some of the hardest monsters in the game by straying off the beaten path. It's also the same for chests, which require very high lockpicking skill. The game highly encourages you to go around visiting all the islands and doing easy quests first. Thanks to the teleporting platforms and fast travel, you can quickly get around. Do note that you need teleporting stones to activate said platforms, but you can usually find some in close proximity. You should join a faction as soon as possible. Joining a faction doesn't lock you out of any content, but instead it gives you more faction-specific quests that you would otherwise not have access to. Most importantly, you will also have access to spells and equipment for that faction, which will make combat significantly easier. And speaking of spells, spell scrolls are super important. Even though they are consumables, they can be used without a cooldown. Moreover, they give you access to the spells of the other 2 classes, which is very useful. Watch my spell review video to learn more about spells, link in the cards. Whenever you are going to use voodoo magic to take control of unsuspecting victims, it's always worth checking to see what items you can get from them by emptying their pockets in a nearby chest. Make sure you unlock the chest first, otherwise you won't be able to open it or lockpick it. Or you can always just cancel the possession if you have to, because these are tied to a quest, so you'll get to keep your voodoo doll for as long as the quest is still in progress. Depending on how much you value role-playing, you can always attack people in camps for extra glory, gold, and some other valuables. Sometimes you can get schematics or items worth thousands of gold from them. There are no long-lasting consequences for doing this. These people will get back up after you down them and will only be upset with you for a short time. If they down you, you'll lose 50 glory, but that's it. You can always use the water barrels inside camps to slowly regenerate HP to full. This is also a good way to save up on provisions, generally speaking. And on the topic of provisions, don't hoard up on consumables because the game is more than generous. Whether we're talking about healing items or spell scrolls, while you can sell these for gold, you can typically use them carelessly. If you like to explore and only learn the skills that you need, you should have plenty of gold left by the end of the game. Exploration-wise, Risen 3 is definitely one of the more generous games coming from Piranha Bytes in terms of loot. There is a great amount of treasure hidden throughout the world, but it's normally off the beaten path, or usually on some sort of elevation. You can find loot on top of buildings, mountains, or anywhere you don't typically look or pay attention to. I highly recommend you hold on to Parrot Fly Scrolls and make good use of telekinesis and astral gold vision. If you need some early supplies, once you get your ship and have traveled with it at least one time, check below deck. This is not the most intuitive thing, and I personally missed this on my first playthrough up until the end. Here you can find some healing items, but most importantly you can find workbenches tailored to your faction. So if you need to do some quick crafting, you can always fast travel back to your ship to do it. When you're on your ship, you may also find it a good idea to speak with your parrot Polly often. This not only leads to some hilarious conversations, but also a worthwhile treasure. Another way to make money is to keep your soul level close to neutral. Depending on the choices that you make in conversations and quests, you can turn more to the dark side or light side, but for the most benefit, it's a good idea to avoid either extreme and stay close to neutral. The game makes it easy to achieve this, and a good time to lose soul is to extort people for extra gold or rewards. On the other hand, you can easily gain soul by being nice to them and giving them a pep talk like their favorite wise grandpa. Through exploration, you'll find various permanent stat boosting plants which you can then use to brew permanent potions with. You might find it a good idea to take this into account when planning your character. Some attributes don't benefit at all when going past a certain point, such as lockpicking or silver tongue. For example, you won't find chests which require more than 120 lockpicking to open, so anything above that is a waste. You can increase your lockpicking by 30 points by simply paying gold to learn skills, 10 more points by owning the broken lockpick collectible, and 45 points by brewing permanent potions. So you don't need to increase your dexterity attribute past 35 to max out lockpicking at 120. Other stats such as melee, magic, or toughness do benefit from increasing them as high as possible. Finding these plants is actually pretty difficult because they're scattered all over the islands and they need a lot of exploring. But if you were to find them all and brew the permanent potions, you could increase your attributes by quite a lot. In reality, it's not necessary to min-max like this, but just be aware that it is a possibility. I did this in one of my playthroughs and it didn't feel necessary whatsoever. It was just for the fun of it. On the other hand, if you just want to have an easy time with the combat in Risen 3, I highly recommend rushing skills such as Blade Dancer for melee, Spell Dancer for magic, but only for guardians, and Blazing Barrel for firearms. Attack speed is the most important stat in combat, both for offense and defense, and it certainly makes combat a lot easier. You may also find it a good idea to bind your dodge key to something in the key assignments. By default, this is unbound, but this is the fastest way to dodge in Risen 3. I found left alt to work quite well for me. I also recommend you set the tutorials to show up only one time, so you don't have these tooltips on your screen active at all times. Do note that tutorials reset when you start a new game. Finally, let's talk about getting a good melee and a ranged weapon at the start of the game. For the melee, you can get the Bone Grinder, which is a decent enough weapon to last you up until mid-game. We start on Tyrannus' dock where we pick up a couple of parrot flights and then we fly across the map. It is important that you don't press spacebar to use your flight meter because we will use that later. It's also important not to touch the water in the lake because that will cancel the spell. Alternatively, you could go around a little bit. Once you reach the cave, you will see a demon hunter called Sharp in front who will ask you to bring him the sword, but you shouldn't if you don't have any gold on you. Solving this quest will give you 200 glory, but if you want to keep the sword you have to pay him 200 gold, so instead you can simply just ignore him. Once you have the sword, you can simply open up the map and press E to teleport back to your ship. For a decent firearm, you can get the Inquisition musket from Wilson's shack on Calador at the Demon Hunter's Citadel. You can ask a Demon Hunter from the fishing village to escort you here, so it's not dangerous. Although this musket is decent early game, later on it's important that you upgrade it to the Reinforced musket if you are serious about playing as firearms. The Reinforced musket not only has better damage, but more importantly it can shoot twice before reloading. If you need bullets, most traders sell them, and they refresh their stock as soon as you reopen the trading window. Alright brevs, that was it for this video. I hope you found it useful, and if you leave a like it would be super appreciated, but most importantly, I will personally gift you unlimited gold. That's right, all you have to do is look me up in game, my character name is Bushmaster, and friend me. And before you know it, when you go to sleep on your ship, you'll wake up in a room with unlimited gold. This could never possibly be a scam. Thank you very much for watching brevs, and have a great day.